They sold my ranch for $1 while I was lowering my father into the ground. Not figuratively, not felt like. I mean an actual $1 printed on a deed, signed with my dead father's name, and filed like it was just another boring Tuesday at the county office. I'm Colt Harrison, third-generation cattleman, and this land, Red Ridge Ranch, 40 acres of scrub, rock, and stubborn grass on the edge of Rockwell County, has been my whole identity since I was tall enough to latch a gate. Now I'm standing at the fence line watching bulldozers claw into soil my grandfather cleared with a mule and a busted chainsaw, diesel smoke burning my throat, machines drowning out every meadowlark I grew up listening to, while Charmaine Locke, president of the Willow Crest Community Association, waves papers in the air like she bought the sky too. Here's what happened. My dad, Mason Harrison, spent 18 months losing a slow, ugly fight with pancreatic cancer in a hospice in Rockwell City. I lived between that building and the ranch, welding in town to keep money coming in, holding his hand at night while he told me the same old stories about how he and Grandpa built Red Ridge out of stubbornness, duct tape, and prayer. The day after we buried him, I drove home in a black suit that didn't fit right, tie stuffed in my pocket, red clay from the graveside still under my fingernails. And there it was, a bright notice stapled right into my old cedar gate, like a pizza coupon. Property in violation, immediate action required. Willow Crest Community Association. There was a voicemail too, Charmaine's voice all sugar and knives. Colt, sweetie, I'm so sorry about your daddy, but your property has become a community concern. When you've had a moment to grieve, call me. We really need to talk about next steps. You know that metallic taste in your mouth when you're so mad your body doesn't know what to do with it? That. 5 years earlier, a developer bought the land around us and threw up Willow Crest Meadows. 140 copy-paste houses with granite countertops and mandatory HOA dues, right up against my fence. Their little vinyl kingdom is new. Red Ridge Ranch has been recorded since the 60s. I'm not a member of their HOA, never signed a thing, never paid a dime. Their rules stop at my fence line. To me, my weathered house and leaning barn are home. To Charmaine, ex-realtor from Fort Bright with a white SUV, turquoise jewelry, and a permanent trust me smile, my place is blight, lost equity, underutilized asset. She loves one sentence more than any other. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. Except half the rules have her fingerprints all over them. 2 weeks after the funeral, a certified letter shows up claiming some 1980s easement, gives the Willow Crest Community Association shared access to my creek and the right to send in landscape crews to improve the riparian corridor. 14 days to comply or face enforcement action. She even quoted a state statute number like she'd just finished law school. Dad used to say, "Never trust what people say about land. Go read what's written." So I went to the Rockwell County building, that familiar smell of old files and burnt coffee, and asked Donna Price, the clerk who's been there since Reagan, to pull every document tied to my parcel. $12 and 3 hours of squinting at microfilm later, I had the truth. Yes, there was an easement in 1987. No, it did not belong to Willow Crest, and it expired in 2002. Her legal right was fan fiction in letterhead. That should have been the end. Instead, it was just the first loose nail in a very rotten house. Once I knew Charmaine was willing to bend the law into modern art, I stopped assuming anything she did was innocent. I filed public records requests for every email between the Willow Crest Community Association and Elliot Crane, the county planner. What came back could have been a how-to manual for polite corruption. He tipped her off about inspection schedules. She timed HOA complaints to land right before county trucks rolled by, and together they built a neat little pattern of coincidence. Then one line in one email hit me like a kick. Once we establish access, the rest is easy. He'll sell or we'll foreclose. Foreclose on what? I had no HOA contract, no dues. The mortgage was paid off years ago. The only way they could foreclose is if they first pretended they owned the place. That thought sat in my brain like a rattlesnake. That same afternoon, I watched Charmaine's white SUV pull into the Starbucks across from the county building. Saw her climb out in a blazer and smile that never reached her eyes, meet Elliot, and clink cups with the body language of two people celebrating a done deal. They honestly believed I was too busy crying at hospice to check the county website. That night I dug into Charmaine's and her daughter's lives the legal way: social media, business filings, public records. Her daughter Brielle Locke, 30-ish, self-branded wellness coach, had washed out of Denver and now lived back in Willow Crest Meadows above her mom's garage, posting about manifesting abundance while complaining about student loans. Then I saw it. A bright photo of Brielle standing in my east pasture, arms wide, mountains behind her, my cattle grazing in the background. Caption: so excited to share the future home of Willow Crest Retreat and Wellness Center. Big things coming sparkles. Geotagged, Red Ridge Ranch. She hadn't just imagined herself there. She was already marketing it. A few evenings later, doing my usual perimeter walk, I found orange survey stakes with WCRC written on them straddling my fence, and a ripped permit paper stuck on the barbed wire. Conditional use permit, 12 wellness cabins, yoga decks, on Lot 9B, Willow Crest expansion. A lot number that doesn't officially exist, but with a legal description that matched Red Ridge line for line. At that point I called my cousin Wyatt Collins, title fraud bloodhound in Aurora. He listened, sighed, and said, "Don't tip your hand. Overconfident crooks always leave receipts. Your job is to collect them all, neat and tidy." So I turned a corner of the barn into a war room. Plywood wall, thumbtacks, printed emails, county maps, screenshots of Brielle's posts, red string connecting names and dates like a crime drama cliché. Except this time the crazy board was the only thing keeping me sane. Day 23 after the funeral, I checked the online deed index out of habit, mug of coffee in my hand, and there it was. Quitclaim deed. Grantor, Mason Harrison, my father. Grantee, Willow Crest Community Association. Consideration, $1. Filed by Charmaine Locke, authorized agent. Recorded after his date of death. I opened the scan. There was Dad's name, and a signature that looked like a healthy man at 40, smooth and strong. Not the shaky scribble from the last year of chemo that's on every hospital form and checkbook he touched. They had walked into a UPS store in Stonebrook, slapped a deed on the counter, and a notary had stamped it, because notaries verify IDs, not health records, and county clerks record what's filed. They don't investigate whether the dead can hold pens. I had 120 days to challenge it before the legal maze got worse. I'd already lost 3 weeks. I drove to that UPS store, asked about camera footage. 30-day loop, already written over. The kid at the counter, Trevor, shrugged and said, "We just stamp what folks bring in, man. Nobody here's Sherlock Holmes." At home, I spread every document I had with Dad's real signature across the workbench. His will, power of attorney, old checks. Took photos, overlaid them on the deed signature, watched the tremors and hesitation from chemo vanish and turn into smooth, fake confidence. Then I took the whole pile to Deputy Harlan at the Juniper Falls Sheriff's Office. He studied it, jaw tight, then gave me the answer I was expecting and hating. "Colt, this walks like forgery and quacks like forgery, but until the DA jumps in, it's a civil property mess. You need a lawyer who likes fights. Enter Harper Ellison, small office over a hardware store in Rockwell City, shelves of dusty law books, coffee that could dissolve rust." She flipped through my folders, clicked a few things on her computer, and finally leaned back. "Legally, this deed is garbage, but tearing it up the slow way costs 40 grand and most of 2 years. Or," she smiled, thin and sharp, "or we let them keep playing Queen of the Cul-de-sac while we gather enough to drop a piano on their heads." We dug deeper. Found out the HOA had quietly paid my first quarter property taxes, like a thief paying your electric bill and thinking that makes them righteous. Found out Willow Crest had already taken deposits for their wellness retreat from rich folks in Denver and Boulder, using my ranch on the glossy brochure like it was already theirs. Then to add insult to injury, an eviction notice appeared on my door. According to their forged deed, I was occupying HOA-owned land, had 72 hours to vacate, and, handwritten at the bottom in blue ink, Charmaine had added, "P.S. Happy to discuss buying your livestock and equipment at fair value. Let's keep this friendly." That's the moment I decided if she loved rules and property lines so much, I'd give her a property line she'd see every morning for the rest of her life. I called my buddy Duke Ramirez, metal genius with a welding rig. "I need a fence," I told him, and I wanted to spell the law she broke. By Saturday, Duke's truck was in my yard, steel stacked like a small bridge, permits already filed for agricultural fencing. We built a 12-foot iron wall along the boundary, every post sunk deep, every weld clean, and every 50 feet a decorative panel shaped into the actual state forgery statute number. Legal, code-compliant, and petty in the most righteous way. Neighbors from Willow Crest wandered over, phones out, whispering. On Sunday afternoon, Charmaine screeched up in her SUV. "You can't do this. It violates our community aesthetic code." I flipped my helmet up, wiped sweat off my chin, and said, as calmly as I could, "I'm not in your community. Your rules live over there. My fence lives here." She tried the spite fence is a legal angle. Problem for her is, on agricultural land in our state, 12 feet is allowed, and I had livestock, cameras, and threats to prove I needed security. The county inspector, Inspector Diaz, came out, measured everything, nodded, and said, "Looks good, Mr. Harrison. Strong work." And while the fence went up, Willow Crest began to crack from the inside. Homeowners started showing up at my kitchen table, embarrassed, angry, holding HOA notices and fee letters, asking questions Charmaine had never expected to hear out loud. Then Neil Foster, retired accountant with a calm voice and a spine of steel, walked in carrying a stack of printouts. He'd exercised his legal right to inspect HOA financials. And what he found turned this from petty neighborhood drama into full-grown crime. Money missing from reserves, monthly consulting payments to Willow Vista Consulting LLC, a shell company owned by Brielle, transfer after transfer into personal accounts, and internal documents mapping out profit splits if they secured Parcel 9B, Red Ridge Ranch. They weren't improvising. They'd been planning to carve my father's land into yoga cabins for over a year. We had forgery, embezzlement, conspiracy, and a whole lot of arrogant emails. What we needed next was sunlight. So we aimed at the brightest, messiest place we could find, a packed Juniper Falls Town Council meeting with cameras rolling. 2 weeks later, the council chambers were overflowing. Willow Crest residents, ranchers from outside town, reporters from the Rockwell Gazette, a local TV crew, sheriff's deputies, a state HOA regulator, and a quiet man in a gray suit, Agent Morales from the FBI. Charmaine walked in with a high-priced attorney, Reed Calloway, and Brielle at her shoulder, both dressed like they were going to a press conference, not a reckoning. The mayor worked through the boring stuff first, then opened the floor for public comment. "Colt Harrison," he called, "you have 15 minutes. I took a breath, stepped to the podium in clean jeans and Dad's old BOLO tie, plugged my laptop into the projector, and started. 47 days ago, I buried my father," I said. 23 days after that, someone filed a deed saying he sold Red Ridge Ranch for $1, 2 weeks after he died. Tonight, I'm going to show you how they did it and why. Slide 1. Dad's real signatures, shaky, trembling from chemo, next to the smooth, fake one on the quitclaim deed. You could hear people react. Slide 2. The deed itself, full screen, with Willow Crest Community Association and $1 and authorized agent. Charmaine Locke, highlighted. Slide 3. Timeline showing his hospice records against the notary stamp in Stonebrick. Charmaine jumped up, protesting, but the mayor shut her down and promised her a turn later. I moved to motive. Neil stepped up with his color charts, showing HOA dues flowing into Willow Vista Consulting LLC, then into Brielle's accounts and retreat costs. Slide after slide, bank records, profit-sharing agreements, loan documents from North Summit Bank, where Brielle had taken out a construction loan using my ranch as collateral. Emails between Charmaine and Elliot talking about foreclosure and establishing access. The room went from curious to furious in about 5 minutes. Then Elliot himself stood from the back, walked down like a man headed for the gallows, and said into the mic, "I accepted money to push permits through for land I knew was disputed. I saved every text and payment. I'm cooperating with investigators." That's when Agent Morales rose, badge out, voice steady. Ms. Locke, federal warrants have been issued for wire fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. You'll need to come with us." You ever see a person's whole persona shatter in front of a crowd? Charmaine went from righteous fury to pure panic, shouting that she was the victim, that this was a witch hunt, as deputies cuffed her. Brielle tried to slip out the side door and ran straight into another deputy waiting for her. Phones were up, people yelling, some cheering, some just stunned. I stayed at the podium, heart pounding, and put up one last slide. Red Ridge Ranch at sunset, cattle grazing, old barn silhouetted in orange light. This is all I ever wanted, I said, voice finally cracking. My home, my father's name cleared, and a guarantee that nobody in this town loses their family legacy because somebody with a title and a board thinks tragedy is an opportunity to flip a property. The council voted, unanimously, to back the emergency court motion voiding the deed and to formally request full state and federal investigation into Willow Crest Community Association. The gavel hit, and for the first time since Dad got sick, I felt like I could breathe all the way down. In the months after, everything that should have happened from the beginning finally did. The fraudulent deed was thrown out. Title to Red Ridge Ranch was restored in my name. The HOA's finances were audited. Charmaine and Brielle faced criminal charges and restitution orders. Elliot lost his job and took a deal. The loan officer who greenlit Brielle's construction loan without real collateral lost his license. A new HOA board was elected. Neil as president, Evelyn as vice president. With real transparency, open meetings, monthly online reports, member votes on lawsuits instead of backroom games. I put part of the settlement money into rebuilding the ranch. New barn, solar panels, better fencing, and I kept that tall iron fence right where it is, adding plaques explaining the statute number woven into the metal so law students, neighbors, and curious kids can read it and learn what happens when you try to fake a signature on the wrong family's land. With Harper Ellison, I set up the Mason Harrison Justice Fund, a pot of money dedicated to helping other folks fight HOA abuse and property fraud. First year, we helped a dozen families stop illegal foreclosures and fraudulent liens, and every time we win one, I walk out to Dad's oak tree, touch the plaque that says, "Built with honesty, defended with truth," and tell him about it. 1 year after that night at council, I stood at the same fence line where bulldozers were supposed to erase my history. Instead, my cattle grazed quiet, the new barn shone in the late sun, neighbors from Willow Crest waved from the trail, their dues actually paying for landscaping, not someone's scam. They thought stealing a grieving man's ranch for $1 would be easy. Turned out they'd picked a fight with paperwork, patience, and physics on my side. So I'll throw this out to you, because this isn't just my story anymore. When people hide behind HOA bylaws and titles to prey on families who are distracted by funerals, hospital bills, or just life, what does real justice look like to you? Is prison enough? Is paying it back enough? Or should every community start shining a brighter light on the people holding the clipboard before they start treating our grief like a business plan?